Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a story that could reshape the balance of power in Eastern Europe. A political storm is brewing in Belarus, a nation that has long been under the firm grip of President Alexander Lukashenko. But now, for the first time in decades, the loyalty of his most crucial pillar of power, the military, is being questioned. Reports and leaks from within the Belarusian military command suggest growing tensions, disagreements, and even open defiance against Lukashenko's rule. This could be the beginning of the endgame for Belarus as we know it. For over 30 years, Lukashenko has ruled Belarus with an iron fist. Often called Europe's last dictator, he has survived countless protests, Western sanctions, and even internal coups. But the recent developments are something entirely different. The Belarusian army has always been his most loyal instrument of control, the shield that protected him from uprisings and foreign threats. Yet now, cracks are appearing in that shield. Some generals are reportedly questioning his decisions, accusing him of dragging the country into Russia's war ambitions and isolating Belarus from the rest of the world. These military tensions come at a time when Belarus is under unprecedented pressure from both outside and within. The people are exhausted from economic collapse, political repression, and their nation's growing role as a satellite of Moscow. Many Belarusians believe that Lukashenko has completely surrendered their sovereignty to Vladimir Putin. Russian troops, missile systems, and nuclear weapons have been stationed on Belarusian soil, effectively turning the country into a forward base for the Kremlin. But this move has not been welcomed by everyone in the Belarusian command structure. Several senior officers reportedly oppose the idea of Belarusian soldiers becoming tools in Russia's war machine. According to sources close to the defense ministry, secret meetings have been taking place among high-ranking officers. Their discussions allegedly revolve around the future of Belarus, its independence, and the possibility of a leadership transition. While these reports remain unconfirmed, multiple indicators point to growing dissatisfaction in the ranks. Soldiers and officers alike are beginning to see Lukashenko not as a protector of the nation, but as a puppet who has compromised the country's honor and future for the sake of political survival. This internal rift comes after a series of controversial actions by the president. He recently reshuffled top military posts, removing several commanders with close ties to the old guard and replacing them with figures known for their loyalty to Moscow. This move was seen as an attempt to tighten control, but it may have backfired. Many in the army viewed it as a betrayal, a sign that Lukashenko is willing to sacrifice anyone to maintain his alliance with Putin. The result has been growing unease within the officer corps and a rising sense that something is about to break. Meanwhile, the general population is quietly watching these developments. Despite harsh crackdowns, protests have not entirely disappeared. Opposition voices continue to emerge, even from within the government's own circles. There are whispers of discontent among civil servants, police, and even state media workers. It seems that the fear that once silenced Belarus is slowly eroding. The idea that Lukashenko's rule is unshakable no longer holds the same power it once did. The turning point may have come when reports surfaced of Belarusian officers refusing to deploy alongside Russian forces in Ukraine. According to unverified accounts, a number of units quietly resisted orders to participate in cross-border operations. The Belarusian government denied these claims, but Western intelligence suggests there is truth to them. If that's the case, it would mean open disobedience within the military, something unheard of in Lukashenko's Belarus. Such defiance could mark the beginning of a much larger internal fracture. Lukashenko's relationship with the Kremlin has also become increasingly complicated. On the surface, Putin and Lukashenko present a united front, but beneath that, their alliance is one of necessity rather than trust. Putin views Belarus as a crucial buffer zone and expects unwavering loyalty. Lukashenko, on the other hand, has always tried to play both sides, benefiting from Russian support while maintaining some degree of independence. But after the 2020 protests, when Moscow helped stabilize his regime, Lukashenko became more dependent than ever. Now, that dependency may have reached a breaking point. Analysts believe that the Kremlin could be preparing for a post-Lukashenko scenario. Russian influence inside Belarus has expanded dramatically. Advisors, intelligence officers, and political strategists have embedded themselves within key state institutions. Some even suggest that Russia may be quietly encouraging divisions within the Belarusian army to ensure that, if Lukashenko falls, Moscow can still control the outcome. If true, this would mean the endgame for Lukashenko is already in motion, not just from internal forces, but from his own supposed ally. On the other hand, the Belarusian opposition in exile sees an opportunity. Figures like Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya and other exiled leaders are calling on the army to stand with the people, not the dictator. They argue that Belarus's military must protect the nation's sovereignty and refuse to become complicit in Russian wars. Some reports claim that these appeals are gaining traction among younger officers who grew up after the Soviet Union's collapse and have a stronger sense of national identity. The question now is, will the army act? Historically, Belarus's military has remained disciplined and loyal. But if the chain of command begins to crumble, if enough officers decide to take a stand, it could trigger a chain reaction. One open act of defiance could inspire others, leading to a full-blown military challenge to Lukashenko's authority. Such a scenario could unfold quickly, as we've seen in other nations where the military shifted its allegiance from Egypt to Sudan to Venezuela. Internationally, Western powers are watching closely. The European Union and NATO have long considered Belarus a security concern, especially given its growing military integration with Russia. If Belarus were to descend into chaos or undergo a leadership crisis, it would have serious consequences for regional stability. Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia have already increased their border defenses, anticipating potential unrest or refugee flows. Meanwhile, Moscow is undoubtedly monitoring every movement, ready to intervene if its interests are threatened. Lukashenko himself seems aware that his grip is slipping. In recent speeches, he has warned of traitors and foreign conspiracies. Within the state, a familiar tactic used to justify purges, but such rhetoric often signals insecurity rather than confidence. His tone has grown defensive, and his actions more erratic, detaining officers, dismissing generals, and ordering loyalty oaths. These moves suggest fear, not control. It's the behavior of a ruler who feels the walls closing in. Economically, the country is also struggling. Sanctions have hit Belarus hard, cutting off trade routes, choking industries, and devaluing the currency. Ordinary citizens are facing rising prices, job losses, and shortages. The social contract that once kept Lukashenko in power stability in exchange for obedience is breaking down. Without that, his regime relies entirely on force. But if the military itself begins to question its role, the foundation of that force weakens dramatically. The next few months will be critical. Observers believe that the tipping point could come if a significant faction within the armed forces openly challenges the president. That could take the form of a refusal to follow orders or even a declaration of neutrality in the event of mass protests. If that happens, Lukashenko's regime could collapse rapidly, much like other authoritarian governments that lost the loyalty of their armies. There's also a growing generational divide within Belarusian society. Younger Belarusians, many of whom communicate with the outside world through social media, are no longer isolated by state propaganda. They see what democracy looks like in neighboring countries and want that same freedom. They are increasingly unwilling to accept a lifetime under the same ruler. This shift in mindset is quietly reshaping the social fabric of the nation, and it's something Lukashenko cannot control. If the army command continues to challenge his authority, we could see one of three outcomes. First, Lukashenko could attempt to crush dissent through mass arrests and purges, risking civil conflict. Second, a negotiated transition might emerge, possibly involving a pro-Russian military faction taking over to preserve order. Or third, Belarus could enter a period of complete instability, with rival factions competing for power, a dangerous scenario that could draw in foreign intervention. Whatever happens, the days of unquestioned control seem to be fading. Belarus stands at a crossroads between submission and sovereignty, dictatorship and democracy. The military's next move will determine not just the fate of Lukashenko, but the direction of the entire nation. The whispers of defiance in the barracks may soon become the echoes of revolution across the country. As history has shown, when the pillars of power begin to crack from within, the fall of a regime can happen faster than anyone expects. Lukashenko has survived countless crises, but this time feels different. This time, it's not just the people against him, it's the very institution that once protected him now beginning to question his rule. The endgame for Belarus may already be underway, and the world is watching closely to see how this high-stakes power struggle unfolds. Only one thing is certain: Belarus will never be the same again.